remember the first sermon I preached in London. There were 17 people at that service. There were 8 Christians and 9 visitors. We met in a Methodist church in South London, in Wandsworth, in fact. Someone's from Wandsworth still, praise Jesus. But I remember it was a hall that would hold about 200. And we had to challenge the Christians, please don't sit right together. Spread out a little bit, put your coat over this pew. Spread out so we look like we can fill the hall. It's awesome to be here at Alexandra Palace and fill the great hall here today. Go find out where he is, the king ordered, so I can send men and capture him. The report came back, he is in Dothan. Then he sent horses and chariots and a strong force there. They went by night and surrounded the city. When the servant of the man of God got up and went out early the next morning, an army of horses and chariots had surrounded the city. Oh, my Lord, what shall we do? The servant asked. Don't be afraid, the prophet answered. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And Elisha prayed, oh, Lord, open his eyes so he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the servant. And he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. As the enemy came down toward him, Elisha prayed, Lord, strike these people with blindness. So he struck him with blindness as Elisha had asked. This was a good day in the life of Elisha. You know, we find right here that the servant comes out and he panics. He says, they're all around us. We are dead meat. You see, it's when you get like that and you cry out to the Lord that the Lord will open your eyes. You know, if you don't feel the need to be saved, if you don't feel the need to be rescued, if you don't feel that the odds are too big against you, there's no way you'll ever see a chariot of fire. So often we live our lives trying to be comfortable, trying not to get out of that zone or that realm where we feel comfortable, and we never see a chariot. We're never saved because we never allow ourselves to be on the edge. Let me ask yourself a question. When's the last time you felt like, Lord, it is out of my hands? I have no hope. I'm like this servant. I'm looking around, and what are the chances of victory? 0. We are desperate. You see, it's those crying eyes, those eyes that cry out to God to say, save me now. Those are the only ones that ever see the chariots of fire. Some of us live such boring lives. We're never out there on the battlefield. Have you ever felt like you ought to be thankful, but you're not? How many have ever felt that way? Raise your hand. We're all breathing. Good. I'm like that. I like to be encouraged. I never go and see bad films. I never see films that have sad endings. Someone says, you should see this film. I said, I'm not like Steve Johnson. He's useless when it comes to film. The sadder, the happier he is. I say, why do you want to pay money to be discouraged? Why would you do that? But you know, sometimes I realize, though, I want to be joyful and I want to be inspired and encouraged. I'm not. And you know what you have to do then? Psychoanalyze yourself. I was on holiday one time, not long ago. We were away, and I said, this should be a great time. I was with my family. We should be enjoying ourselves. And yet I was totally burdened. Everyone else was happy, but I was unhappy. You know, I went out and I prayed. I said, God, I have 3 things that are burdening me right now. And I sat and I thought about, number 1, we were trying to move house from one place to another. And the house wasn't selling, and someone was offering, and I didn't know, and I didn't want to be greedy, but I didn't want to be stupid, and I didn't know what to do. And I said, God, I'm burdened. It's stealing my joy of these troubles, this stupid house. Secondly, I said, God, my son, Christopher, he was applying to the #1 high school in the whole United States, free high school. And of all the crazy things, the last term before he applied, he got the worst grades of his whole life. I got the report card. I almost cried out loud. Then I almost showed him the wrath of God. I mean, I didn't know what to do. And I thought this would be such an awesome opportunity for him, but oh, God, and I knew I was going to find out the results soon. Do you ever have a burden like that? Something's coming, you think, oh, it's not going to be good. And then we had a problem in the teen ministry, and I was wanting to work it out and get it all figured out, and I just went out on the deck and I prayed, God, these are the 3 things I need. You know, I went in the house, and I felt better. I don't know, dumped it on God. That felt good. I said, okay, I'm going to be fired up. I'm going to leave it with God at least till tomorrow. Okay, let's have a holiday. Yes. I got a phone call that afternoon. The estate agent. They said, you know that other fellow was negotiating? Don't worry about him. Someone called and offered you the full asking price. Do you want it, yes or no? I said, do I want it, yes or no? Yes! What do I need to do? I went out on the deck again that day. I said, God, 1 down. Way to go, Lord. That was incredible. That was amazing. I prayed this morning, this afternoon. It happened. Next day, I got out on the deck again. I prayed, God, only 2 things. It's not big now. Reduced by 33%. But man, it would really be awesome. God, you're on a roll. This is your time. Let's do it, baby. Came in that afternoon. Phone call from home. I have the letter from the school. Brother said, do you want me to open it? Yes. He opened it. He fiddled with it. It seemed like for 10 years. And then he decided to be clever. I said, bro, he said, well, do you want to hear the good news or the bad news? I said, shut up. Just give me the bad news. And even I stopped. I said, hold on. And I began praying. I said, God, I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. I do believe. God, honestly, I prayed. I said, God, even if they said no, you could change it in the post. I mean, you could change it. God. I've never been so insecure in my life. Brother said, he's not going to the one you thought he might. I said, what does that mean? He said, he got in. He said he was accepted. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah. I said, what does it say at the bottom? He says, it says congratulations. I said, what name is at the top? He said, Christopher. I said, yes, he's in. Our God is an awesome God. You know, within the next 10 days, the teen ministry thing worked out beautifully. But you see, you only see the chariots of fire when you have crying eyes. You know, I know in London we're coming up to the special contribution. Some of us may be crying about that. Oh, God, kill me now. I want to see the chariots of fire. I'm really committed. It's like some students I used to know. They would pray, Lord, right before final exam, Lord, if I'm going to die in the next 2 years, please make it today. You know. But sometimes it's only when you get on the edge and you say, God, I should have prepared better, but I didn't. That you take that step of faith and God delivers you in a terrific way. You know, I also began to pray and cry out to God this year. I said, Lord, I want to be fruitful. How many of you pray that prayer sometimes? Lord, help me be fruitful. Right? Yeah. The rest of you are visiting. You'll learn about this. Lord, I'll tell you, the pressure is multiplied by at least 50 when you're in the ministry. Because everyone thinks, oh, you're a professional. And if you're a big-time leader, oh, you better be having them come in, Goliath every week. You know, where is he? That was last week's Goliath, bro. How about this week? You know, but I began to pray out. And one of the things I want to encourage you to do is pray out crying. And I'm not talking about being emotionally unsound. But I'm talking about learning to care. You know why you cry? Because you care. It's what you really care about is what you cry about. You know, Nathaniel's funny. Because he was raised with no mother. He doesn't cry no matter what, no matter how hard he gets hit, no matter how he gets cut, whatever. He says, no, I don't cry. I said, Nathaniel, tell me about crying. He says, you know what I don't understand? Why kids, when they get hurt, they cry? That's stupid. It doesn't help anything. I said, it's funny, you have a man's perspective on tears. That's what men think. But if you're a little kid, when you cry, actually your mother comes running, and that's helpful. But you know, some of us, we've hardened our heart, and we don't cry about anything. We don't really care about anything. And we've become so hardened on the inside. You know, but I began to pray, God, I want to be helpful. I want to bring people into the kingdom. I want victory stories, God. I want something really awesome to happen in my life. You know, we sat down, we went and spent a couple of days with Joyce's family. And we sat together with them. And as we were with them, we began to talk, because they'd left the Lord. You know, I didn't know it, but Joyce went off with her sister all day. I went with my brother-in-law all day. And we sat together and we talked and we cried. And you know, they're on the road to being restored now. This church was started by Joyce and me, but also James and Tanya Lloyd. There were a couple who were awesome in the Lord, but you know, they fell away. They were here in London about 6 years. They helped a lot of people. They got so discouraged, they fell away. I took James to a service in Los Angeles, where he now lives, several months ago. We've had several conversations, and about 2 weeks ago, I flew out to Los Angeles just to have a time to get right with James and Tanya and apologize for the things I'd done wrong. You know, we sat there that night and I just cried. James cried, Tanya cried. They're on the way to getting restored now in the kingdom of God. You know, I got a call then, because I thought, well, that's awesome. We're getting people back in the kingdom. And then I got a call. Some fella I had reached out to for 3 years. He moved away. He moved to Denver, Colorado, and he rang me up and said, hey, do you have a church of yours in this city? So we called up John Lusk. We talked to him. He hooked him up with Preston Shepherd. I got a call 2 weeks ago. He said, well, Douglas, this is Patrick. I guess I should call you brother now, because me and my wife just got baptized. That's incredible. You know, I came over a few days early and took a couple of the American brothers up to show them the English countryside, that green and pleasant land. We went to Northampton and we're staying in a big home there. And there was a servant there who was helping out. And we began singing one day in the chapel of this little home, this big home. If your home has a chapel, it's big. Well, we began singing and he overheard. And it was the most remarkable thing, because we were in the middle of nowhere. He said, which church are you from? We said, International Church of Christ. He said, I used to be part of the London church. I said, you are kidding. We talked for about 2 hours. And we shared about all the things and the hurts he'd gone through. And you know, we talked to him, and he's here today at the service, coming back to the Lord. There are two kinds of eyes that see the glory of the coming of the Lord. Dying eyes and crying eyes. I have one last thing to share, and it was one of the most enjoyable things that happened this whole year. I'll remember from my whole life. I got a chance to go and meet a funeral service for one of the father of one of the disciples in the New York City church. He was a very prominent politician. And they had a memorial service there, and the president was going to be speaking at it. I got a chance to go to that service. And you know, I went in there, and it was in the right there by the Capitol building, an incredibly ostentatious place, and all of the top dignitaries of the whole nation were there. The president was there, Mrs. Clinton was there, all of these senators. And I came in early with Steve Johnson, the evangelist from the New York City church. We came early. We wanted to get as close as we could. And you ever go into a place where you don't really belong? And we were in there, and we didn't know anybody, but we came in, and we looked, and the front row was reserved for family, and then the second row said reserved, and it said Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. We thought, let's get as close to that as possible. Right behind were 2 seats that said reserved, reserved. Steve said, we could just move these, and we could sit here. And I said, no, I don't think that'd be good. I bet that Secret Service people are going to sit right there. But then there were other senators' seats all laid out. But then there were 2 little empty chairs on the side. And I said, Steve, let's do it. Let's sit right here. So we sat there on the second row. We were way early, way ahead of everybody else sitting on the second row. And then come in all of the dignitaries. This was during the impeachment trial of Bill Clinton. All of the senators came in who had just been doing the impeachment trial. He had not seen them since they'd gone to be there. All of these senators come in, hello, hello, and they all know each other. And I don't know anybody. And my great fear is to say, someone will meet me and say, well, you're Douglas, who are you? And I'll say, well, I'm Steve's friend who's the friend of the son of the dead guy, and we're here. I sat there as insecure as I've ever been in my life. Don't want to make any noise, just sit still. But I knew, it'd be great to invite the president. Then the service begins. And President Clinton gets up and gives an address, and everyone's saying nice things, and then the sister of the Christian, the daughter of the deceased, gets up. And she says, well, I have something to share with all of you, and it's from the Bible. All the ears perked up, because you got Bill Clinton sitting there who's being impeached for his affair with Monica Lewinsky, and all the senators right behind him. She says, it's over here in the book of Galatians. She said, it's in chapter 6. I said, do not say it. She said, it begins right here in verse 7. It says, do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Man, old Clinton's head went down. All the senators, everybody's looking at the ground. Steve and I are like, oh, golly, I can't believe this is happening. But you know, and she said, and my challenge is for you senators. You senators, you better have a spirit of forgiveness, or believe you me, when you meet the Lord on the last day, you will not be forgiven. It was the most tense environment you could possibly imagine. Here's this woman with a real attitude, shouting at all the senators. The president's head's down, all their heads are down. And I'm thinking, now how am I going to share my faith in this environment? Just then, they said, well, in closing, we have a song. And the choir from the Washington, D.C. church and the New York City church sang Amazing Grace. And they sang the most rousing, incredible song I've ever heard in my life. I mean, the whole chamber was just filled. And although it had been going on for an hour, no one had ever stood up the entire time. As soon as that song was finished and they were singing, Hillary Clinton jumped up and began to push. That was incredible. Bill Clinton was all fired up. And at that very moment, I saw the Chariots of Fire. I stepped right through it. I reached out my hand. I said, hello, my name is Doug Arthur, and I'm the minister of that church right there. It was awesome. It was awesome. There are two kinds of eyes that see the glory of the Lord. Dying eyes and crying eyes. It's been awesome to be together. God bless.